Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports, real live in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan's going to be on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch up on the other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago's, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And what do you say about our podcast? Glad you asked. You can subscribe to our podcast at WARR Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of WARR Media, go ahead and give them a follow on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Once again, that's at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and don't do something stupid, I'm giving Lakina full power to give you fools beer ain't beer beat.
Bye-bye.
But before we continue, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch. You can use your laptop, your personal PC, or your Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just go into the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and 7 days a week, live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
All right, Sid. Okay, we got a lot to do today here on Second City Sports. Our buddy Saul Rodriguez from WARR Media is back with us to talk some baseball. Also, our girl Christine Manika is back for a bi-weekly visit about this time of year to talk, pretty much, White Sox, recapping the U.S. Open and so much more.
Yeah, she had royalty visiting her radio show today. We definitely had to get into that. You saw it on her social media earlier today, but we'll let her tell you that.
Yes, we do. So let's talk, a little bit NBA draft and, I know, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a little bit of a yes. It was a little bit of a snooze fest. As expected, Victor Wembanyama ended up going to San Antonio as the number one pick, hoping to join some, couple other big men that were drafted with the Spurs. It was actually about this time, yesterday, almost to the day that. In 1988, when a one future Hall of Famer, David Robinson, the Admiral, was drafted number one. Also, Tim Duncan was also drafted number one in 98, I think, about 10 years later. So, but, the cool thing about it is that, great guy, 18 years old, from France, and, all the hoopla, the Spurs end up winning that sweepstakes. Brandon Miller, the high flyer from Alabama, a little bit of a, got into some trouble during the hoop season, but he ended up going number 2 to the Hornets, and probably MJ's last sort of go around before giving the team back to some new ownership. Scoot Anderson, all SEC, Scoot Anderson from the G League Ignite, he ended up going number 3. And the Thompson twins, no, not the 80s band, the Thompson twins.
Hold on, tell your word.
Oh, God.
Carry on.
More careful so we don't have the royalties for
right. That's why I say carry on.
Yeah, Amen and Al-Sur, Thompson from Overtime Elite. That is your top 5. Anthony Black from Arkansas. Bilal Koulibaly from Metropolis '92, which was was drafted by the Pacers, but ended up being traded to the Wizards. They ended up swapping picks, and Jerace Walker from Houston, he went at number 10. Of course, he got traded to Indiana. Jazz draft Taylor Henderson from UCF, and Mavs draft Carson Wallace from Kentucky, who was then traded to the Thunder. So, Stu, what did you think? Did you watch any of the draft? Did you, see all kind of like the pomp and circumstances stuff, or were you just like in and out, or what was your thoughts? What were your thoughts in the draft?
I caught a couple of clips on the YouTube. To be honest with you, I had other stuff to do, so I couldn't watch the whole thing. I was interested in the Chicago Bulls angle of things, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But just skimming through the list from last night. I had a love affair, no pun intended, for Jaime Jaquez Jr. from UCLA. I'm glad the Miami Heat selected him at number 18 in the first round. I think he's going to help them, especially with the shooting. It's going to take some time for him, of course, but I think he's going to eventually find his way. I'm interested in this pick at number 23, Chris Murray from Iowa. He was selected by the Portland Trailblazers. Of course, you mentioned the number 3 pick that Portland selected, Scoot Henderson. Yes. And I don't know if this means that Damian Lillard is going to stay, which I doubt. We'll get into that angle too later on. But the Blazers continue to draft young athletic players. I don't think it's going to be enough for Damian Lillard. Like I said, we'll get to Dame Dollar angle later. But I was happy for the Heat selected Jaime Jaquez in the first round.
Yeah, definitely some big names in the college hoops world. Marcus Sasser, was drafted by the Grizz, but ended up going to Detroit. Like you said, Chris Murray to the Blazers. That could be potentially a big steal for them. Going through some of, like I said, the rest of this list. Jalen Pickett from Penn State, was drafted by the Pacers, but ended up going to Denver in a trade. Let's see here. We're just skimming through, just really skimming through the list. Amari Bailey, the Hornets ended up drafting him as well. Let's see here. Some other Keontae Johnson from K-State. The Thunder draft him at number 50.
I thought that was a good pick for OKC.
Yeah, solid pick there. Potential steal here. Jalen Wilson ended up going 51 to Brooklyn. Jalen Clark from UCLA. He is going to Timberwolves at 53. Isaiah Wong, of course, the big star of the tournament. This past tournament, he ended up going to Miami. Trace Jackson Davis, next to last pick, he ends up going to the Wizards. Just some of the names that are, from the college hoop side. Now, some names on the college hoop side that weren't drafted, some familiar names. Adamu Sunagu, who was the most outstanding player in this past tournament. The Bulls actually ended up getting him on a 2-way pick. Drew Timme, who you would think that maybe he actually had another year of eligibility, believe it or not. Of course, he ends up going to Milwaukee on Exhibit 10 deal. We'll explain that part in a second. And Oscar Tshiebwe, the talented big man from Kentucky, he ended up going undrafted. As of right now, he has not picked a team. I'm sure he's getting a lot of calls and stuff like that. Of course, Jordan Hawkins was another big star for UConn in that tournament. And he's going to the Pelicans. Pelicans, I guess, a nice pick for them. So what did you think of some of the names that I mentioned about guys that didn't end up getting drafted?
In the way, I'm kind of sure that Drew didn't get picked. And I know we talked about before we went on live today that we know that the value of a big man is not as important as it once was. Just like the running back position in football is not as valuable as it once was when we were growing up watching these sports. But I think that what Nikola Jokic did in the finals for the Denver Nuggets, I think it's going to reevaluate some things if you don't fit that prototype as far as being that facilitator and being able to not only shoot the ball from the outside, but be a valuable asset at both ends, offensively and defensively, especially the way the game of basketball is going today. If you're not versatile, it's going to be a problem for you. So I think this is where the league is headed as far as the big guys concerned. Your traditional big guys just get in there and block shots. There's a role for you, but it's not going to pay you the big bucks. It's going to keep you in the league for a while, yeah, but it's not going to get you paid the big bucks. You still have to have the ability to score.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like the thing where like a lot of those big guys, did end up getting picked. So and the fact that these guys, end up going to college for like 4 or 5, I think in Timmy's case, like 6 years, there's a lot of mileage on them. So, I think a lot of teams, unfortunately, kind of want to avoid that. So they want to get these young guys like the Thompsons, Quintins, who are only 19. You got Wemiana, who's only 18.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, I guess you can say that's probably where the league's going, I guess, basically. We talk about this Jed Howard, of course, Juwan's son, get ready to feel old, folks. The Magic ended up getting him with the 11th pick. Grady Dick from Kansas, he ended up going 13. Derek Lively, drafted by the Thunder, but ended up getting traded to the Mavs from Duke, and I believe that is, I think, what, the 20th? The 30th actually selection, lawyer selection from a Duke player. That's the most of any school since 1985. So, and also too, of course, Sheboy, Oscar Sheboy, of course, he's the first Naismith Player of the Year. Of course, he won a couple of years ago to not get drafted. So we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a team that's going to want to, vie for his services. Maybe get some G League, maybe get some points there. And I guess Zach Edey might have known something because he pulled his name out pretty quick. So you got to wonder that maybe he probably was hearing things too. So I mean, it's just that. What do you think about the draft in general? I mean, there are some people that thought that maybe it's a little bit boring, that maybe they did kind of definitely sort of, not like reevaluate, but sort of like kind of rehash and refresh a little bit. What do you think?
Outside of the Victor Wembanyama selection and the Scooter Henderson and Brandon Miller selections, we didn't expect too much out of this draft class, only because about what the state of college basketball is with the transfer portal and NIL rules and things along that line. On the outside factors, we don't get a chance to see these college players play long enough outside of 1 or 2 years. I know we started or getting passed over because of COVID, they had to stay an extra year. But it's been a going trend for a long time to see the years, and then you got to kind of familiarize yourself with them. But you're not seeing that anymore. It's really unfortunate now because some of these players out of the top 3 names that I mentioned that were selected to be good players. Sure, it's a crapshoot with any pick. Have paid attention to college basketball. And you don't get a chance to see them, and it depends on what school they go to. If they play for a big school like your Dukes and your North Carolinas and Kansases, at least you get to those smaller schools. You don't get a chance to see them as much.
Yeah, and also too with a lot of these these guys are playing for the G League, they're playing from other professional teams, so I guess folks are willing to kind of go overseas and perhaps maybe go to probably a G League game, or perhaps maybe see some of these guys and get them while they're younger. So like, I think it's definitely one of those things where I know there's some talk that maybe they might do away with the rule, maybe raise the rule back, take the rule back down to 18, which. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think it's one of those days where maybe college hoops and the NBA should perhaps work together, because the NFL and the NCAA college football, they kind of get together and try to kind of make that thing happening. And baseball has a very I know their rules are very similar, are very different. You got to be 18, but then you can get drafted or play college baseball or come from overseas. So yeah, it's sort of one of those things where maybe the NBA and the college hoops may have to kind of join forces. Maybe you got the G League, which are paying more and more, and that's fine. But you kind of wonder okay, what's the end game here for if you're like a college, a highly touted player, you're wondering okay, I can't get into NBA because I spent 4 or 5 years in college. I'm gonna get that cost me. I don't know.
And also, too, don't forget with those spots in the G League, not everyone is qualified to fit those spots. So, like you said, college is obviously the traditional option. But here's the thing: if you open it back up, which will probably end up happening anyway down the road, but if you open up the lead back to selecting high school kids, let's just say you're in an organization that, if you're looking up to that develops well, by the time that young man develops about 22, 23 years old, his rookie contract is up. And if you're the original team that drafted him, he's going to leave for free agency and go somewhere else. So you're really taking a big risk right there.
Exactly. And they could have been a bust too. You never know. So I think that's another thing that that some of these teams got to take into account. I'm sure they'll you got to hope that they'll figure it out. I'm hoping that maybe, like you said, maybe they may have to settle on an age, whether it's 18 or whether it's just 20 or something, or they keep it at 19. I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk some more NBA, some couple of big trades came down the pipe, and even some surprising opt-ins or opt-outs. We'll also talk about how the Bulls did in the draft. Yes, they actually were able to kind of get in, perhaps maybe pick someone. Oh yeah, take that as you will. But but yeah, so also to some other NBA news coming up, and if we have time, we'll also talk some couple top names, get into Hockey Hall of Fame. So we'll have all that and more coming up. Lakina McGee said, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Chicago. More round ball and perhaps some ice talk too coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports, a Friday Fun Friday edition. We're live in the color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and _McGee on the IG. Easy for me to say.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. So let's talk some more NBA, shall we? A couple of big trades came down the pike, this week. It's been a pretty busy time in the NBA, believe it or not. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but other than the draft, but probably one of the biggest news. Of course, we told you guys about the trade on Monday that would send Bradley Beal from the Wizards to Phoenix, and a couple other exchange for some other players and a couple of picks, but CP3 nothing to do with the Wizards. So what do they do? Well, they decided to trade him to the Golden State Warriors. I don't think anybody.
What a shock!
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that might be a little bit of shock to some people. So what do you think? I mean, I can kind of see. I know that the Warriors have already said this is probably the first big move for a new GM, Dunleavy Jr. But I'm wondering, well, I think it could fit. I know some people are wondering, will it fit? The fit, with CP3 and Steph and those folks. But especially with them sending Jordan Poole back, I think that might get Draymond Green to come back. I'm just saying. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, this was definitely, I think, a trade that caught a lot of folks off guard.
Here's the thing from the strategic basketball angle. I think this will work, but the only thing about is health for both of them, because Steph Curry, he was injured off and on last year, but his injury toward the end of the season really hurt the Warriors. I believe it. I think it was a small factor of why they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round of this past year's playoffs. So I'm worried about the health for both of them. But I think strategically and basketball-wise, I think it will work. I know some people say you can bring Chris Paul off the bench. Okay, but who do the Warriors have on the roster right now to be a starting point guard? Well, Steph's a starting point guard, but no. So I think Steph can play off the ball. You can start Chris Paul, and I think it can work in that way. Chris Paul doesn't need the ball to score. He just has to be the facilitator. That's all you need for him to do. The question for him is, I'm talking about Chris Paul, he has to stay healthy. Now, with the Draymond Green angle, I said this to our guy on our text chain with the guys from the LD and Davis show. This is an easy walk in the park for Draymond Green to re-sign with the Warriors, because we all know that franchise is over the salary cap. I think they're a repeater tax offender as well. And so we know that their ownership likes to spend money to get the Warriors on that championship level. So that was a major reason why that Draymond Green declined that option last week that we talked about. Now with the trade of Jordan Poole to the Washington Wizards, I think it's without a question, we've seen stranger things happen. But I think that Draymond Green, I'm 99.9% sure, in my opinion, that Draymond Green is going to resign with the Warriors now, because the Warriors are on the timeline of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. To be honest, I think you have 2 or 3 good years left of this core. And so I think when Draymond Green sees this, he's going to realize that, hey, we can still get out another championship or 2. That's why I want to resign. Now that Jordan pulls out the fold, it's just time for me to walk back on in.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen too. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. I think Draymond wants to see his options, so I'm wondering, okay, could this be sort of the thing that kind of, sort of maybe keep the core together for another maybe 2 or 3 more years, like you said. That's probably how much they got to live. They're over 30 now, so now you got CP3. I mean, CP3 is not really a shooter. He's more, like you said, he's a facilitator. He's a floor guy, so that way that can keep the pressure off Steph to have to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, what Draymond does, and what I'm sure there's more coming up with the Warriors. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm sure he's rubbing his hands and getting ready to go. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Now, staying out west, Dame Dollar, Dame Lillard, I should say from the Blazers. No one really knows. I don't think he knows what he wants to. He said on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week that he wants to stay in Portland, and it's just I don't know what the heck's going on. What do you do if you're the Portland Brass? I mean, I know that they tried to trade for. We'll get to another big trade that came out in just a second, but that could have impact that. But what do you think Dame does? I mean, does he stay? Does he go? I mean, I know they drafted Chris Murray, but I don't know if that's gonna help much. I mean, you're in a Western Conference that's very competitive. You got the Nuggets who are defending champions. We'll see. We'll see where the Lakers and the Clippers are. We'll see if Sacramento can duplicate what they did this season. So there's so many teams. Of course, Minnesota. OKC's up and coming as well. Phoenix, we'll see what they do with that new core with Book and KD and now Beal. Dallas, we'll see where they are. So, like, what do you think? Well, what do you think Dame does, as they say?
As you just mentioned, looking at that landscape of the Western Conference, how can we get in the top 6, top 7, top 8 with the young core that the Portland Trail Blazers have right now? It's not going to be enough. Damian Lillard has been very loyal to that organization over his entire career, 11, 12 years, I believe. And so you had your chances, but the management, for some reason, just could not make the big move. I know that Portland's not a big market. It's never been a big market and never will be a big market. I know some folks don't want to hear that, but free agents are not going to go to Portland. Let's just be real about that. So, and I think Damian knows that. And so, Chauncey Billups was a nice coach for him this past season, but it's not enough. So that franchise needs to hit the reset button. Now, I think we talked about this before last summer, Lakina, and I'll bring it up again right now. There's a couple of teams that Damian Lillard can go to. I know Miami's been on the top of the list for some people. I know that Philadelphia has been another team that's been on the top of many people's list for a little to go to. But there is some options for him, but hopefully he realizes it before it's too late, because I believe he's 32, 33 years old right now. He still has something left. I know injuries have crept on him the last couple of years, but he started to enter the middle of the twilight of his career. So he has to realize that if he wants a championship, he has to go somewhere else. And hopefully he can find the right situation because he has more than enough power to go tell the management to trade him to wherever. But let's just see if he can pull the trigger off.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what that Brass in Portland does. I mean, to me, I think, look, if you're Dave, if you're serious about, look what happened to Carmelo. I mean, you thought that he had a chance to go someplace, perhaps maybe get a chance to win the title. That didn't work. So now, I don't want to say he was ring chasing. He kind of was, but you saw what happened in the end. So, if you're Dave, I mean, look, you're 32 now. You really don't have. You'll maybe have 5 years left, maybe 6 years left in the league. So you want to try to find some place where you have a shot at perhaps winning. I mean, you may have to go east, like you said, Sid. I mean, he may have to go east because there's really, it's so loaded. It'll be interesting to see what Joe Cronin, who's the GM for the Blazers, does. So I'm wondering, it's going to be very interesting. Scoot Henderson, I know they drafted him as well too. I know he's a great talent. I think Dave could mentor him. But if you're Dame, I mean, do you really want to be at a point where you want to you want to mentor a 19-year-old kid? I mean, I'm sure you won't mind doing it, but I think you want to, play with some veterans and perhaps maybe get a shot at winning a ring. I don't know if you want to do that. So they're in a tough spot. They're in a tough spot, Portland is. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, Damian Lillard, you have to believe it's on a championship timeline, and the Portland Trail Blazers and those young guys are on a different timeline. So as well as I do, Lakina, 10 times out of 10, those different agendas do not mesh into one. So something has to give.
Absolutely. So, all right, as I can see, sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. We're talking some NBA. So a big trade just came down the pike, Sid. The Boston Celtics are now finalizing a deal to acquire the Kristaps Porzingis from the Wizards he's opting in his new contract, and the Celtics are also trading Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies as part of that 3-team deal. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good move. I'll go with the Memphis Grizzlies first. I think it's a good move for Memphis only because Marcus Smart brings that defensive toughness to that Grizzlies team that they so desperately need. I know they're as an organization, as a team as a whole with that roster, they're grinded out a physical type team. They go dig in the dirt and get whatever they want. But I think this is more important for John Morant only because important for Memphis because John Morant is going to miss the first 25 games of the season, and you need some scoring. And I know Marcus Smart can provide some scoring. No, he's not going to give you 20 points per game, but he's going to give you the key defensive stop when you need it. Plus, you're going to have a couple of guys back, big guys back that were injured during this past year's playoffs, and Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. So the defensive toughness is going to be fine for Memphis, especially at the start of the season when John Morant is going to serve that suspension. Now, for Boston's angle, it's a good pickup with Kristaps Porzingis. He's going to bring you something offensively. Hopefully he stays healthy. His health has been in question over the last couple of years or so. The problem for me is get something good, you have to give up something good. I think Boston just regressed as a team defensively. And when you take a look at the rest of the roster for the Boston Celtics, you still have dynamic players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I know you didn't get much from your bench this year, but their identity outside those two guys that I just mentioned was defense. You saw that last year when the Boston Celtics marched towards the NBA Finals, ultimately blowing that 2-1 series lead to the Golden State Warriors. And their team defense really improved last year under Ime Udoka, the former head coach. It did get back to that sort of level this past season, but not to the level it was when it reached the finals last year. But with this Porzingis move, it adds something valuable offensively, especially at the front line position. But defensively, I think they lost their identity.
Yeah, I think they really did. And I feel like, it'll be interesting to see what Porzingis can bring to the Celtics, because I think he is that sort of like that big, big guy up front that he can shoot the three. He can, be a beast in the interior. So I'm wondering, like, could he fit Boston's system? We'll see. But Marcus Smart, I mean, I know he wasn't very happy, but look, he's going to the Grizzlies where they're a nice up and comer. So he might end up doing okay there, but. It'll be interesting to see what Boston's big plans are. Do they have a bigger plan? Do they try to get Dame? Do they try to, there's so many places that they can go with this. So I'm wondering to see what they can do, especially if this is it for them.
You would think they'll be it for them, but I don't think it's going to be it for them either. Like you say, if they're trying to go after Damian Lillard, what else do they have left in terms of draft capital and players on their roster? If they try to go after Dame Dollar, would they have to get a third or possibly a fourth team involved? Those deals are usually tough. So Boston, I think, still has some more work to do. But if they're going to get a player like Damian Lillard, I don't know if they have much left. I don't know what their salary cap situation is, but I don't know how much they have left as far as assets to acquire a player like that.
Interesting to see what they can do. Any other NBA news that you want to talk about before we move on?
I want to get to the Chicago Bulls angle of the NBA draft from last night. And of course, they selected Gene Phillips out of the University of Tennessee. I believe the Bulls made a draft day partner, which was from the Boston Celtics. I don't know if you caught AK and Arturas Karnisovas, for those of you scoring at home, and G and Mark Eversley, the Bulls press. They spoke to the media very late last night after the draft concluded, and they were talking about how he was very versatile and he can score, but he's not really a shooter. And I was like, didn't we see the same stuff last year when they selected Dale and Terry Lakina? Yes. Almost the same stuff. Yeah, I'm willing to give this Bull.
Oh, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'm willing to give this Bulls management a chance, Lakina, to see this plan through. But right now, I'm really giving them the side. I'm really having a lot of questions for this front office. As we said before, when they made the move to get Nikolai Vucevic in here, we were happy. I was happy, but we did warn you guys when the stuff hits the fan, when it's front office going to do. We're starting to see some of the signs right now. I know they want to keep this core together, but they're not going to, because they're going to go slightly over their salary cap if they do for next year. We know this is a 40-win team at best. You're not going to go over the luxury tax for average or slightly above average team. This is not going to happen. And I forgot who. I think it was Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago that asked a question last night about the roster going forward. And AK repeatedly said that Jerry and Michael Reinsdorf has given them all the resources to win. I'm just paraphrasing here. Has given them all the resources to win. And if it's a competitive team, those two will allow them to go over the luxury tax. I said I'll believe it when I see it. So this Bulls team has a lot of work to do. They need shooters on this roster, not one but two shooters. I know that Andre Drummond's a free agent. I think Patrick Williams and Kobe White are restricted free agents. I know Ayo Dosunmu is a free agent. So they still have a lot of work to do. And I don't think it's I'm going out on a limb saying it's not all of them are going to be back. And I know there was a story out a week or two ago that suggested that, I forgot who wrote it, but that should the Bulls even consider giving a $100 million extension to Patrick Williams? Right now, I say no.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, though. I think if you're AK and you're kind of in a tough spot, because you've given the go ahead to go over the luxury tax, but what does that exactly mean? I mean, are you going to try to maybe get another shooter or two? Do you try to perhaps maybe use that to sign? Because I don't know if Io is a restricted free agent. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering like what exactly is a plan, and I think that's going to be part of the problem. I know some Bulls fans want them to hey start over, go rip everything down, but I'm like, look, if you're gonna do that, you better make sure you're all in on a rebuild. I don't know if they're ready to admit that yet. So it's gonna be interesting what they do. But yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by this. But look, they got Adamo Sanogu, like I said, on a 2-way deal. I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be like I said, it's all kind of right there, and I'm wondering like, what exactly is a plan? Do the Bulls have a plan? That's what I'm wondering.
I think they have a plan, but it seems like to me, like I'm just an outsider looking in. It seems to me that they're waiting for other factors to fall into their lap. It's like, well, you can't wait for other people to do your dirty work for you. You have to go out there and be aggressive. And it's not like that this management hasn't known the situation for the entire year or what they're going to do this summer. And also, too, they announced that Lonzo Ball, they ruled him out for next year, which was not a surprise. But I'm glad they got that news out of the way early, so you don't have to answer those questions going into next season in training camp. But I want to give a shout out to our guy from WARR Media, and it's the Bigs, the Drew Stevens, who asked the question to AK last night at the presser at the Advocate Center. Mm-hmm. He asked them about what they're going to do as far as free agency as shooters. And of course, Mark Eversley gave the BS answer, talking about, well, we hired a shooting coach. We want our players to improve shooting. I'm paraphrasing here. We hired a shooting coach so it will improve our stock with our players and blah, blah, blah. And we'll see what to do with free agency. I know that management is not going to say everything in front of the media, but it just I'm not going to say that they're clueless over there, but it just seems that they are. But they shouldn't be clueless behind the scenes. They have to be aggressive. And like I said, Lakina, whether they bring Vooch back or not, which I think they will, out of those big three, him, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan, who's a free agent next summer, you got to move one of those big three. You have to.
And I mean, look, if Zach's contract's not very good, so you got to think that's probably why they're having such a hard time moving it. I mean, DeMar. I mean, look, if you're DeMar, okay, look, you want to do a partial teardown, have at it. But these Bulls fans are not. They can say that we've been talking about this for like the last month, and I'm sick of saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it though. Most Bulls fans are not going to want to rebuild. They're not. They're not going to be patient through another rebuild. They're not. So I
don't think the right stars do either.
No, so I think, look, perhaps they may have to go all over the way the CBA is set up for next season. Starting next season, I guess you got to spend at least 90%, and then I guess there are exceptions if you go over that 90%. So there's going to be a little bit of money there for the Bulls to play with. So I'm wondering, like, okay, who do they have? Kind of like, do you try to get maybe Fred VanVleet? He could be a nice little. We know he can shoot. I mean, he could be a kind of like a good guy that a nice guy that kind of a good compliment to that big three, and there are some other guys out there as well. So like I said, it's going to be interesting what they do, because I think, look, we can bitch and moan about we want them to do this, we want them to do that. Look, I'm going to go by our buddy, Big Dave Watson from CHGO Bulls says, look, let them cook. You'll hold them accountable. But just, what? He might have AK and everything may have a move in their mind. You never know, but we'll see. But I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those things where you kind of wonder, like, okay, what is sort of the end game here for the Bulls? Excuse me. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And also, too, I forgot which member of the media asked last night, and AK said that we don't start rumors, blah blah blah. AK mentioned that Zach LaVine is working out with some of his teammates in Los Angeles. He's getting an early head start on the all-season workouts and blah blah blah. If you're the Bulls management, you have to take calls on which teams are very interested in Zach LaVine's services. Before you engage on which team or teams are interested in Zach LaVine's services, you got to get a gauge of a true evaluation of what's Zach LaVine's worth out there. Is he really worth trading for that big contract you just mentioned? You got to get a true gauge of it. And after that, you have to talk they bring you proper value for a player like that. Let's be honest here. Zach LaVine is a star, but he's not a superstar. The Bulls have a team of stars, but not a superstar. You know, we all know that you need a superstar or two to win in this league. The Bulls have a nice roster, but they don't have any superstars on this team.
I mean, I'm at that point where I'm kind of just like, I feel like the Bulls are kind of like, they're sort of like in no man's land. I mean, they're, you don't want to tear it down and have to start over because Bulls fans are not going to like that. However, they're not up there with with the Philadelphias and the Celtics and those teams and even Miami. So, I mean, at this point, we just don't know what they're going to do. I mean, look, could they pull a fast one? And hey, we signed Fred VanVleet and we got another shooter. We were able to kind of make sure we were able to kind of get the numbers to make sense. So it's going to be interesting. But I kind of feel like it's just look, I'm kind of a wait and see mode with the Bulls. I'm not going to give up on them. I think it's just like, you really don't know. I think we don't know what the Bulls are going to do. I know everyone wants to trade with their, hey, let's get, get Zach for Dame, or let's try to get. I'm sure try to get Jaylen Brown, or let's trade DeMar and Ayo for DeAndre Ayton. I mean, do you really think there's anything out there you're going to get for equal or less value? I don't. But look, if y'all want to, try to, see what else is out there. But hey, look, have at it. But I'm going to leave it to the professionals. I think, look, I know AK Eversley, I know they're, look, they'll tell you that they haven't done well, but it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. But like I said, we'll just have to wait and see what they do.
Yep. And we'll see what happens with the Bulls situation as free agency looms in a couple of weeks on July 1st. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See Lakina hanging out here with you as we close up shop for hour number one. Lakina, I know we'll probably get into this more in depth in the next hour, but I want to get the conversation going as far as the names for the Hockey Hall of Fame. And one famous goalie from New York City has that list, and one former Chicago Blackhawk that I love has that list as well. Tell us about it.
Yes, some of the names that have gone to the newest members of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Let me get this list up here. You got Mr. Hendrik Lundqvist, of course, as Sid mentioned. Of course, the top guy from the Rangers. We'll get more in depth this with Christine in a little bit. But Tom Barrasso, Mike Vernon, who has a couple of cups. Pierre Turgeon. Women's hockey, Canadian women's hockey legend Caroline Ouellette, Ken Hitchcock, and the late Pierre Lacroix. Now, any big surprises, Sid? I mean, like I said, we'll get more in depth into it with Christine later, with our girl Christine Manika.
Not really.
On, yeah,
not really. Yeah, like I said, Henry Lundqvist, you would love to see him win the cup for all those UC Rangers, but it just didn't happen for him. But he still had a hell of a career. That's the only thing I would say. But outside of that, I have no problem with that list.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get more in depth into it because we're up against and our buddy is right. It was with us right now, so we're gonna take a really quick break. We're gonna talk a little bit more, Hockey Hall of Fame and a lot more with our girl Christine Manika. But up next, we're gonna go to the Diamond and talk some baseball. Cubs, you'll continue to keep pace because they need to because the rest have been hot. The Sox,
the hell with them.
They won one, yay, against the Rangers. Okay,
we'll get into that. That's the only thing good. We'll get into it. Let me say it.
Yes. Cincinnati stays hot, as I said, and the Rays got the best of it, and at least there's one thing going well for the Yankees, and a whole lot more with everybody. All things baseball with our buddy Saul Rodriguez from WARR Media coming up next. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We go to Diamond coming up after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean,
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this fun Friday Fun edition. You're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Kinosco again, the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, especially for our guests, you can hit us up at the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also view and catch Sports Zone Chicago now live and direct on Roku TV.
Absolutely. Anytime, anywhere you want. But we're going to talk about, we're across some baseball here. And help us out is one of our good friends who's one of our friends. He's our colleague over at WARR Media. And you can catch out his blogs and also to his podcasts and his shows on baseball and there's so much more. He is the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Saul Rodriguez. Saul, how are you?
Hey.
Woo-hoo.
Hey, I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Great to have you back. Now, do you want to go with the good or the bad first, Sid, in Chicago baseball?
Let's go with the good, just to be fair.
All right. The Cubs have been, very solid lately. They sweep the Pirates again, this time in Pittsburgh. They're right there in the National League Central, which they better because, thank goodness, because what the Reds have been doing lately. We'll get to them in a second, but. What do you think, has been the key so far for the Cubs' recent success, and can they keep it up?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of everything. I think they're running on all cylinders right now, kind of how they were at the beginning of the season. I think at the beginning of the season, it was more of offense, riding that. And now it looks like they're running on all cylinders with the pitching as well because, you have a pitching rotation that is pitching. Pretty much everyone in that rotation is pitching well right now. Even Tyone, who's had his struggles, but even he's been able to, get some quality starts in there. But I mean, it's really just been the way that they've played against competitive teams that are in the playoff hunt, kind of like the Orioles, for example, last weekend. They were able to hold their own against, that team who is really just a couple pieces away from maybe being a World Series favorite. So, I think they've been able to maintain this, and hopefully it can keep it going because this division, of course, with this division, it looks like there's a new team in first place every week. Although I'll give more credit to the Reds, when we talk about them, but yeah, the Cubs are playing well right now, and hopefully they can keep it up.
I know the bullpen for the Cubs has been an issue all year, Saul, and I know that it hasn't been talked about as much during this recent stretch of winning. But how worried about this Chicago Cubs bullpen? Because I know Mark Leiter Jr. has stepped up recently. Albert Alzolay, who was a former starter, has really done well on the pen. But how much are you worried about, especially with those uses of those two? Because if David Ross keeps throwing them out there, call me crazy, they'll be burned out by the All-Star break, and we all know they don't have anybody else to come mop up those innings for them.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think the bullpen's been better, but it is the weakest point of this team, no doubt about it. I mean, they struggled to find a closer at the beginning of the season. They tried with Fulmer, that didn't work out. And they tried with Boxberger, who of course is still on the injured list, and that didn't really work as well. But now with Alzolay, that's looked way better. And I believe he's at 8 or 9, scoreless innings. So that's looked good so far. Mark Leiter has pitched better. I know he almost got hurt the other day. His arm got twisted in an ugly way. But yeah, no, he's looked a lot better since May. And the thing is with the Cubs is really that's what they should go for at the trade deadline is really just some bullpen arms. It's been, like I said, their main weakness. And if they can get that worked out, then that obviously can be a big deal for them and hopefully help them get a wild card spot. But yeah, you're right in the sense that if they keep using those arms, they definitely are going to be burned out, and that's why they need help. And what really is unfortunate about that is that with Cody Hoyer, that was a guy that maybe could have come in and been a closer or at least a setup man. And of course, earlier this week he hurt himself again. He had another setback. Hopefully it's something serious. Hasn't come out. It looks like he threw out his arm. A lot of people were worried that it was his elbow again as he's coming off Tommy John. But it doesn't look like that's the case. Either way, it's really unfortunate because he's such a talented arm, and the Cubs could have really used that this year.
Absolutely. And what do you think? Will the Cubs be buyers of the trade line? Obviously, they need a middle relief arm. They need a little bit more hitting. So if the Cubs are going to be buyers with the trade line coming up on the 10th of August, what do you think is going to be? Of course, we know bullpen is going to be the top priority. So is it going to be another starter as well? Or do you look at what Jed Hoyer and Connell Hawkins, what they're going to do here?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where even with the White Sox as well, it's there's 6 weeks of baseball left before that, and anything can happen. I mean, they're playing well, right? The Cubs are playing well right now. The Sox aren't playing well right now, but that could change in an instant with both of those teams. And I think, with the Cubs, I think if I would predict that they are going to continue this stretch and be able to play at least 500 baseball. And if that is the case, then of course you're going to go out there and try to get some bullpen arms. I know that there could be some maneuvering where you kind of play it like the Orioles last year, where you kind of sell but also buy, or vice versa. And we could always trade. Mancini doesn't look like he has a real spot on this team right now. That's a guy that could be moved. And those types of moves could happen. I know that if the Cubs do go in a different direction and they end up, losing like 6-7 in a row or something like that, and by the time we get to the trade deadline and they're 8 games back or 9 games back or something like that, then they consider moving a guy like Stroman, because they've been talking about that. I personally don't think that'd be the best thing to do, just because a team that maybe is a year away from really competing for a postseason spot, as well as competing to go deep in October, I don't think that'd be the right move. But at the same time, I do understand the other side of the coin, which is they can get a lot for him because he does have a year left on his deal.
As a Cubs fan, Saul, how excited are you that your team is going to be featured in a national spotlight against their historic rival in the St. Louis Cardinals overseas? At least from the lineup perspective, at least for a pitching matchup perspective, David Ross is playing this perfectly, I think. Justice Steele goes tomorrow, while Marcus Stroman starts the Sunday game. How excited are you as a Cubs fan as they get to play their historic rival overseas?
No, yeah, it's awesome. I think I've always wanted to see the Cubs be a part of something like this. At least I know they've played in Japan in prior years, but I wasn't watching back then. But in this case, super excited. I mean, I'm wearing my Tottenham Hotspur hat. Of course they play in London. I was hoping they played there when it was announced. But they're playing in a stadium that where the Red Sox and Yankees played for its West Ham Stadium, the London Stadium. So that's cool. But yeah, as you said, with the I was really excited to see that they got Stroman and Steele going back to back against Wainwright and Flaherty, and I think it's an important series regardless, because obviously you're playing the Cardinals division team, and And despite the Cardinals being in last place, again, you never know when a team in the Central can get hot and kind of march their way up the standings. But yeah, no, I think it's really cool the fact that the Cubs are involved in this, and it just helps the brand even more. And obviously they don't need much help there, but it's cool to see the Cubs and Cardinals. They're one of the best rivalries in all of American sports. So to get that in a different country, and I know they just I heard this morning that the MLB is looking into a Paris game by 2025. So hey, I mean, if the Cubs go to Paris too, that I would be up for that as well.
Yeah, I've been seeing some of the pictures from social media from the players, with respect to social media page. I know they're already like having the time of their life there. I know you see Stroman by Big Ben. It has been hilarious. But let's go to not so good. I know Sid's been avoiding it for like the last 10 minutes. Sorry, Sid, but we're gonna talk some White Sox. Losing 2 out of 3 to the Rangers. They have the Red Sox starting tonight. They're 6 back in this Central. What do you think? Can they? I'll let you go for it, Saul.
No, yeah, I mean it's been a disappointing week or so in the sense of they were still I think like 3.5 games back at some point in the last 7 or 8 days, and they've gone down now to 6 games. And with the White Sox, it's just been a disappointing spell in the sense of they're playing competitive baseball. They just can't seem to get that that winning run across. It looks like, because when you played Seattle, those were 3 competitive games. You played Texas, those are 3 competitive games. They were able to scratch one, or steal one with that whole play at the plate. But no, yeah, it's just been inconsistencies along in different parts of the club. Jake Berger, who was hot in May, has cooled off a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Luis Roberts, the one that's been carrying the freight for the offense. Tim Anderson, who as of right now is day-to-day with the shoulder injury, he has yet to get hot. It's just been a lot of contributing factors. And, as much as, we talk about on the At Bat podcast that they're not out of it, and they probably won't be out of it for a while because of just the way that the AL Central plays and the way that the Twins are just as inconsistent, honestly. I mean, they're 38 and 38. So, yeah, I mean, the White Sox, it's a tough spot to be in. And I think that they are probably more primed to do the whole, like I said, the Orioles move from last year where they are going to sell and buy at the same time. Because, you can't really give up, I think, in these types of races because of the way that the division plays. And they're going to have a lot of questions to answer at the deadline. But like I said before, 6 weeks, you never know where the White Sox will be by then.
Co-host of the At Bat podcast, presented by WARR Media, Saul Rodriguez is hanging out with us right here on the Friday edition of Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Saul, let's go back to the only win that the White Sox had this past week, and that was the Tuesday's win against the Texas Rangers in that controversial play in the 8th inning. Texas Rangers catcher Jonah Helm had the perfect position to tag out Elvis Andrus. He did just that. But those good folks, I'm using air quotes here for those listening on a replay on the podcast, that those good folks in New York City disagreed that Jonah Helm blocked the plate. Last time I checked, and I watched it over 50 times, Jonah Helm did not block the plate. Elvis Andrus did not have to avoid him. The perfect tag was laid on him. He was out. What did you see? What did the good folks in New York see that we didn't see at home, or if you happened to be at the game? Call me crazy. I don't get it. What did New York see that most of us, the rest of us, did not see? What were your thoughts on the whole play?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't there personally, but I know Gabriel Wilkins, who of course is on WARR Media's Open Run, as well as comes on At Bat all the time. And yeah, I mean, it was a crazy play. I think, man, those plays at the plate, with that Buster Posey rule, it's really a flip of the coin. I honestly don't know. Look, for me, I looked at it and I thought, Elvis Andrus is safe. There's no interference at all or anything like situation like that. He's safe regardless of what happened. And I think a lot of those plays are very confusing because the rule is kind of, it's not very, very explicit in the way that it puts where, obviously every play could be different when they're throwing the catcher. It depends on where the ball's taking the catcher and all that stuff. So it's very just in the gray, and definitely look, at the end of the day, I was telling Gabe, I was like, you know what? The White Sox have been on the other side of things, these situations before. I know Gabe brought up a situation a couple years back when the Sox had a play go their way against the Giants, and Bruce Bochy was on the good side of that for him. So, it's one of those things where I guess this one's going the White Sox way. Maybe the next time it doesn't. Fortunately, it was able to go the Sox way, and they were able to get that win because, hey, however you get the wins right now, however you can get that luck to go your way, the Sox need it now more than ever.
Now, with the injuries to both TA and Liam, I think McCall is just now getting off the IL and and everything else. I'm sure giving him another week or two, Eloy will be back on the IL. But look, you can look at Jake Berger, what he's done, and I think he's like right up there and like in the top 10 in the AL and like a lot of the batting categories. Do you think he has a shot of getting into the All-Star game as a reserve at the very least in Seattle?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Berger for sure has a chance. Luis Robert is going to be there for sure as well. But I think with Jake Berger, I think he's been one of the hottest players in baseball over the last few months. Like just the way that he's played, and like I said, he did cool off in the last couple of weeks. But even then, for his standards, this guy's he's going to hit you home runs all the time anyway, even if he's not necessarily hitting well. And we talked about it again last night on at bat in the sense that. It's just his pitch selection he just has to do better with that, and kind of the same thing with like Christopher Morel. It's a guy, these guys that have immense pop, but they have to be more selective with the pitches that they swing at, just to give themselves more opportunity for success. But yeah, Jake Berger definitely has a chance. And I will say this, we've talked about it again before on the pod. We really want Jake Berger and Luis Robert in the home run derby. I think that would be awesome for Sox fans.
Yeah, hopefully Jake Berger doesn't lose his power like Bobby Abreu did many years ago. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. We're hanging out with Saul Rodriguez from WARR Media right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Let's go to the bigger picture. Talk about the rest of MLB. I like watching the Baltimore Orioles, Saul, but I'll go to the other side in the National League. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds. What a difference has the rookie Ellie De La Cruz has made for the Cincinnati team. I watched the entire series against Colorado this week, and I like the way they played baseball. And let's be honest here, their pitching staff, especially their starting staff, doesn't get enough credit, but they still have a nice collection of hitters besides De La Cruz. I really like Jonathan India. He's really has come on in the last couple of seasons. Talk to us about the Cincinnati Reds. Are they really a big threat to go to the playoffs, or they're just on a fortunate hot stretch for them right now, as they're currently on an 11-game winning streak?
Yeah, no, they're a fun team to watch for sure. I think that they have a lot of young talent, whether it be up here in the majors or in the minors. I mean, they're stacked, and they definitely have a chance. I think that in this division, you don't need a lot of pitching to win this division. Mm-hmm. The Reds, that's where they lack the most. And you're right, they don't get enough credit. I mean, Hunter Green, has been their best pitcher. Mm-hmm. They got guys like Ben Lively and those type of guys, but they definitely need some work there. And the thing is with them is that they could go out there and get, a starting pitcher or something like that and kind of, ride this thing out for real and, make a good run for the Central. But no, they've been really fun. And Ellie De La Cruz is for sure going to be one of the top talents in baseball in the years to come. I mean, this guy's as electric as it gets from all angles. And when he was coming up, I kept hearing, he's a left-handed Fernando Tatis. And I was like, I got to see that for myself. And it took just one game for me to be like, okay, that they're right. He plays a great baseball all around, and he's super, it's just so fast. And it's great to see a guy like this for the Reds. They deserve it. They've been out of it for a while, and regardless of that postseason run in 2020, I think they were hungry for more. And I think it's good to see guys like Jonathan India getting being the leader of that team more. Joey Votto's finally back. He had a home run in his first game back, so I think that'll boost them a lot more as well. So yeah, they're definitely in this. I think for the long run, and if they cool off this year, I don't think they'll be worried at all because that coming next year, they might go out and get some free agents and be that much better to match up with their young talent coming up.
Yeah, another young talent that's making waves, Luis Urias from the Marlins. He had another three-hit game earlier this week. Do you think he's I don't want to say, he's been making, at least tying some, hitting records, in a season. I guess like 3 different 5-hit games. Only 4 players have done that. And, it's sort of one of those. Is he one of those guys that could perhaps maybe make a case for MVP, or could he perhaps maybe be a piece for somebody? I know Miami's like kind of right there, keeping up with Atlanta for the East, but do you think that is he a guy that could be moved during the trade deadline? And if so, could he, or if he could perhaps maybe get MVP honors?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% see that. If if the Marlins keep playing good baseball and they're able to get into a playoff spot, he's for sure an MVP candidate because him and Soler have been carrying the offense for the most part. But Luis Arraez, I mean, that guy's been just a hitting machine. And I mean, he's hitting 397 right now, still threatening to hit 400. I mean, we're basically almost halfway towards the at the halfway point of the season, and he's almost hitting 400. I mean, that's ridiculous. His on base is 447. So yeah, no, if the Marlins stay in this race and they're able to, get a playoff spot, even get close to one, he's going to get MVP votes because he is for sure their best player, overall. And, that duo is not talked about enough though, and with Soler and Arraez, and that's a scary duo if you go into a wild card series against those guys, not to mention, Sandy Alcantara, who's been pitching a lot better, lately. If that guy gets back to anything near last year, of course, as a Cy Young Award winner, I mean, that'd be great because they have some talented arms there, with Luzardo and Garrett and Cabrera and all those guys. So hopefully they're able to find it because I'm a big fan of these Marlins, these Marlins players. And, that stadium, and, we saw how electric it could be for the WBC. We want to see some Marlins playoff baseball there for sure.
Sticking with the NL East, Saul, I'll break protocol here. I'll ask you a 2-part question. One, even though they lost to the Braves yesterday in their series finale, are the Philadelphia Phillies back? And number 2, are you going to throw in a towel with the New York Mets? Unlike that one midday host at WFAN.
No, yeah. Oh, I mean, look, if I was a Mets fan, to be honest, I'd be really inclined to just throw in the towel. I mean, 14 games back. It's June. I know it's June. It's still, it's still early to be talking about division winners and all that stuff technically. But yeah, I mean, it's really tough to get back into this division when you've got teams like the Marlins, teams like the Braves. Phillies have been playing better. I'm not giving up on them either, just because their offense is just so good. They really just need their pitching to kind of step up a little more because Aaron Nola hasn't been as good as he has in the past years. Wheeler's been their best pitcher, but we expect him to be good. They need Taijuan Walker to pitch a little better there. But no, yeah, the Mets. It's been very disappointing from multiple angles of that. And look, I think every time I check on the Mets, whether I'm watching a game or whether I'm just looking at the numbers, and I check on the Mets, I think they do. They're only as good as Francisco Lindor is like that season. Like if he's not playing well, they're not playing well, and he hasn't really lived up to the deal, let alone the trade that they made for him. And that's because you know what you're going to get with a guy like Pete Alonso. He's going to hit you 40, 50 home runs a year. That guy's a beast. But Lindor is just a big part of that team. He's a big catalyst, and they only go as far as he takes them. And right now, he as much as he's been solid defensively and offensively, they need more out of him. I mean, the 740 OPS is not going to cut it for a team like the Mets that are looking to make it far. They're looking to be a World Series team, obviously. So I think with their biggest issue though has been, of course, the pitching that hasn't shaped out how they want it to be. And a lot of people criticize them in the offseason for getting guys like Verlander and because of the age and all that. And it's bit them very much at this point of the season because they haven't been pitching. He hasn't been pitching as good as he has again. So yeah, a lot of things have gone wrong for the Mets, but I will say this: I will not feel bad for them because next year they're gonna try to get Ohtani in the offseason, maybe even at the deadline. It's one of those things that maybe they're so desperate right now that they go out and get Ohtani now. Who knows? Because the Angels are playing good right now. But yeah, I mean they'll be fine because Cohen, if he has to make pull a move in the offseason, he will, and they'll be back at it next year.
Now let's stick with New York. Let's talk about the Bronx Bombers and Yankees now. Unfortunately, because of Judge's injury and a few other injuries, they have not been playing very well. They're 9.5 back in the AL East. Of course, the Rays have had their struggles lately. But do you think the Yankees can get back into it? I mean, hopefully, Judge will be back soon, and maybe that'll help a little bit. But unless they clone Garrett Cole, I don't think that's gonna really do much for him. So, what do you think about the Yankees' chances?
No, yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think in the sense of even a wild card spot if they can get it. I mean, this is a team that kind of like I was talking about with Lindor, is that they play way better. I mean, it's easy to say that obviously they play better with Judge, because who wouldn't, right? But when Judge doesn't play, they just can't hit compared to how I think his hitting is so contagious that they play so much better when he's in that lineup. And I think that's what's hindered them for the most part of the season. When they coming into play today, and hopefully he can come back before the deadline. But yeah, I know. Also, another thing they've been waiting on is Carlos Rodon. I mean, when is he going to show up? They haven't necessarily given a timeline. He said he's felt better. He's getting closer to where he wants to be. But I will say this: if Rodon can come back and be that Cy Young candidate, I mean, the Yankees are going to be scary in a wild card series. They're going to be scary for the rest of the season. I think also another thing too is they don't have Frankie Montas. He might not pitch this season, so I won't give Yankee fans hope. But if he comes back as well, that's a huge help for that rotation. But they just need more out of their offense. They need more out of guys like Stanton, guys like Rizzo. They need guys to step up when Judge is out, because they don't know how much longer he's going to be out. They said that at the very earliest, the week before the All-Star game, and that's a lot. That's a few more weeks before that happens, and guys like DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Volpe, they're not hitting well right now, and they're going to need some guys to step up before that.
We're wrapping it up with Saul Rodriguez, a co-host of the At Bat podcast, courtesy of WARR Media. He's hanging out with us right here on Second City Sports, on Sports Zone Chicago. City Lakina here with you. Last question from me, Saul. Looking at this schedule for this weekend series, of course, it's highlighted by the Cubs and Cardinals from London. But you're looking at other series on the schedule here. Even without Aaron Judge, it's still a big series. Texas and the Yankees. You have the Diamondbacks and Giants. Of course, the Giants' 10-game win streak was stopped by San Diego yesterday. You have Brewers and Guardians. You have the Angels and the Rockies. Also, you have the Mariners and my Baltimore Orioles this weekend on the East Coast. Which series are you looking forward to watching outside both our Chicago teams this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good one too with the Rangers and Yankees. They're two teams that are fighting for playoff spots as we speak. And definitely another one that I'm looking at is Astros Dodgers. That one's going to be played on Sunday Night Baseball as well. Mm-hmm. Those are two teams, of course, with a lot of history. Obviously, Dodgers fans, regardless of who's on that Astros team, are going to let Altuve and the gang hear that. But yeah, I think that's going to be a good series. I think those are two teams that are, as always, competing for a pennant. I mean, the Dodgers kind of had a colder start. It's one of those things too, where even where the Dodgers are at right now, 41-33, some Dodgers fans are like, "Oh no, what's going on?" The Padres, or the Giants, whatever, they're playing hot. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried whatsoever, because they're going to go out there again at the deadline and go out and get a starter, or go out and get a bat, somebody, something extra they don't really need, what they'll get. And they'll play better baseball. The Astros are kind of, they know that they're getting, they're letting their little brother, the Rangers, to have the division right now, and I don't think they want, them to take over. So yeah, it's one of the more interesting series. I mean, the Rangers, like I said, Rangers and Yankees is a good one too. I mean, heck, one of the more underrated ones as well is Diamondbacks and Giants, because there's again a couple other teams that are in the hunt. The Giants out of nowhere are kind of giving me like 2021 vibes, where they they're coming out of nowhere, winning 100 games that season, right? So this year, I don't think they're going to do that, but they're playing good baseball right now, and Logan Webb's one of the best pitchers in the NL right now. So that's another series that I'll be watching for sure.
All right, Saul, as always, thank you so much for joining us today. So where people can find you on social media with all your great baseball thoughts and your podcasts and WARR Me and all that great stuff.
Yeah, so my Twitter's right there. You can follow it at Saul_R26. As well as you want to find all our podcasts for WARR Media, just go at WARR Media on YouTube, TikTok. We're on Instagram, all over the place. So definitely check us out, and appreciate you guys having me, of course. And again, you guys are doing great work. Keep it going.
You too.
All right. Well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Saul. You guys keep it up as well, and continue the great work. And we'll have you on again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks.
All right. You too.
All right. right, that was Saul Rodriguez from WARR Media. And real quick, so let's go to the rest of these weekend games. You've got Pittsburgh and Miami starting their series. That's the first game of the Apple TV Plus. Also, 2 Mets and Phillies. The first game of that series will be on Apple TV Plus as well. You got Oakland and Toronto. You got Milwaukee and Cleveland. Of course, the Red Sox and the White Sox. The Angels against the Rockies. Nationals against the Padres, and the Diamondbacks against San Francisco. That should be a fun one.
Yes, and your Fox Saturday baseball day-night doubleheader looks like this. Of course, everybody's going to get the Cubs and the Cardinals from London. That's tomorrow at noon Central Standard Time on Fox. Pre-games at 11 a.m. in the morning. Of course, at night at 6:15 Chicago time, most of America will get Dodgers versus Astros, while the rest of you will get Tigers and Twins. Ugh. And then, of course, no Peacock Sunday baseball game because Sunday night baseball will have a day-night doubleheader, of course, on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Chicago time. Cubs and Cardinals will wrap up the 2-game series from London. And as Saul mentioned, on Sunday night baseball later that night, we will have Astros and Dodgers wrapping up that 3-game series from L.A.
All right, and that's your schedule for baseball this weekend. And, of course, all the games are going to be right there for you, so you can stream them anytime you want. All right, so Sid, we got our girl Christine Manika from KXRB waiting on deck. She had a golf legend visiting her studios today. I can't wait to, I'll let her share with you the details on that. We'll give her
greatness.
Yeah, right. So we'll give her thoughts on. Sure, she'll have her thoughts on her White Sox and sports media news, and of course the end of a show on ESPN Radio. We'll tell you more about that coming up next too. Like so much to do with our girl Christine Manika. Can't wait to get to it after this break. Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Star Chicago. Coming up more right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on a fun Friday fun edition. This is our last segment of the show for today and our last segment for the week. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
All right, we have less than a half hour left of this extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. Lakina, no further ado, let's bring her on. She's in her this is her week for our bi-weekly commentary of sports, entertainment, and more from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Here comes our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. What's up, Christine?
Hello, guys. How are ya?
Oh,
doing
like
good. How are you?
Busy.
I see you at your home base there.
Yeah,
I am. Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right.
Do you have any access to any sound effects?
I do. I can. Do you want me to give you a
Sure.
a bell? Is that good?
There you go.
Yeah, you can use that for White Sox management to wake the hell up, but I don't know.
Gotcha.
All right, Christine. Let's start off with. Well, we'll get to the baseball later, but we want to start off with some good news. Me and Lakina mentioned it before the break. We saw this on your social media page this morning. You had a very special guest on your morning show this morning from the world of golf. Tell us about it.
Yeah, actually, so this happened on Wednesday. And it was two-time US Open champion Andy North came in and did a fun meeting with everybody here in the office. Just about being your best self, always giving off that confident energy, never showing that you're nervous, and just how to overcome adversity, basically how to sell yourself to your audience, potential buyers, whatever the case may be. And then afterwards, he graciously decided to be part of a very amateur putting contest. And whoever won $1,000 was going to go to charities. So he chose the Sanford Health Foundation for the Children's Hospital, and I chose the Cure Kids Cancer, which is part of the Sanford Children's Hospital too. So either way, it was going to go for the kids. So it was a fun afternoon. I knew about it last week. My boss came up with the idea. My general manager, Don Jacobs, he's been friends with Andy North for quite a while now, and he thought, I'm marrying a professional golfer. Andy is a professional golfer. Why not create some fun content? So that was a fun afternoon on Wednesday. Great guy. I almost won. So I'm looking for a rematch in the future. But great guy. I'm happy to be part of something like that.
He is a good man, and I'm sure you did pretty good, Christine.
Oh, there's a video officially.
Yep. Okay, yeah, we'll go through her social media page to check out the video. Now, speaking of the U.S. Open, what did you think about Wyndham Clark, keeping Rory and others at harm's way to get his first major?
The reaction on Wyndham's face just is probably one of the best reactions in sports that I've seen in a long time. You can just tell the emotion, and coming from kind of that perspective, it's a grind being a golfer. You never know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. You can be leading like Ricky Fowler was for 3 days and then just fall off the radar on the very last day. It's true. It's a tough sport, and you really never know what's going to happen. And I'll be one of the first to admit to say I was pushing for Rory and Ricky to win it. And secretly, I'm like, come on, Wyndham, you can miss that. Rory needs to get another win in. Me and Chris were both like that. But then towards the end, I'm like, all right, Wyndham, like, this is your time. Like, go on up there and do your thing. He already won He won a tournament, I believe, in the beginning of this season. So just to see him come out with a major, that's amazing. 29 years old. There's something in Colorado this year. You have the Nuggets that won, and now Wyndham won the U.S. Open. So pretty cool.
All right, Christine, let's switch over to baseball before we get to the Sox. I know that the Cubs are playing the Cardinals in the London series this year. Of course, baseball announced that there's going to be a game being held in Alabama, Lakina, next season around Juneteenth. Of course, the Mets and the Phillies will be playing in London next year. But what are your thoughts, Christine, about baseball branching out to promote their sport overseas? We know the NBA has been doing that successfully for years. Football is starting to do that now. We know hockey's been doing the game overseas now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at golf, it's been going overseas too. All the major sports have pretty much already done it. So if anything, baseball is kind of lagging behind a little bit, in my opinion. I gotta be honest, when I saw on social media that the London Tower they were at, I immediately thought the London House in downtown Chicago is where they were doing their
oh gosh.
So then I saw, wait a minute, they're in like legit London. Gotcha. Okay. So I think it's a cool experience to be able to be out there and bring the sport of baseball to over the pond. My sister, she was just in London about a month ago now already. Geez Louises. And she went to, the London Tower and whatnot. So it's a great experience. One of the biggest cities in the world. So that should be fun for the Cubs.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's definitely on my travel bucket list. Let's go with the bad, Christine. Unfortunately, yours is White Sox, and what do you think? I mean, they're now 6 games back as we're recording this, and just we thought that they went 2 out of 3, but then they end up losing in like 2 series after that. So do you think they got a shot? Perhaps maybe the only good thing about it is that they're playing the AL Central, which is pure comedy. I'm just gonna say it. So
the Sox have a good record against the division this year. Go figure that.
Right. Yeah. It's everyone else that they've had problems with.
Well, on the bright side, it's Tim Anderson's 30th birthday today. So happy birthday to Tim Anderson on a happier note with the White Sox. I've heard a lot of talk on 670 The Score. Just, I listen to Chicago sports radio when I'm out here. And a lot of reports have been saying that it seems like Pedro Grifol is just a little bit too over his head. I don't know if it's because it's his first manager position and he's just excited and just wanting to get a team going here for the White Sox. And sometimes it's just a lot of drama that goes on too, We don't know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know what happens in the clubhouse. We don't know what happens in practice. We just see what is being put out there on the mound during a game day situation. So maybe it's time to move on for some of the veterans. As I'm praising Tim Anderson for his birthday, maybe it's guys like Tim Anderson that need to go. Maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. Maybe you really got to start fresh.
I think that's what the Sox need to do. But just like Lakina said, because they're in the AL Central, they're going to be in it for a while. No, Rick Hahn commented on that before Monday's opener against the Texas Rangers. Christine, before we move on deeper with the White Sox, I want to get your opinion about the only win that the White Sox had this week was that Tuesday night's win against the Rangers. Jonah Helm, the catcher of the Rangers, he tagged out Elvis Andrus in the 8th inning, but according to the good folks in New York, I'm using air quotes here for those listening back on our podcast, that they said that Jonah Helm technically blocked the play. But the last time I checked, and I looked at that play over 50 times, Elvis Andrus did not have to avoid the catcher to tag home plate. I don't get it. I was happy for the White Sox, but I don't know what we missed that New York, apparently they say that the home plate umpire missed. But what did you think about that play?
Yeah, sometimes officials get it right. Sometimes officials get it quote unquote wrong. It's hard to do their job, right? Like I can never do their job and have so much pressure on myself to either get the call right and make sure I don't get thrown out of the stadium by the opposing team or whoever the call is against, So that's a very tough job in itself. I've watched it a couple of times. That's an iffy situation. I don't know. Like the easiest answer that I can say is I don't know. I'm not in that profession to know how to go about that call. What I can say and what I've noticed is that sometimes if a referee, from what we see, quote unquote, messes up, then they'll somehow make up for it later on in the game. I don't know if that was one of those situations or not. But yeah, it's questionable for sure.
Now, the MLB All-Star Game will be commencing in a few weeks. I think the voting is still going on. Well, actually, they got it down to the finalists. For the ballots and stuff like that. Of course, Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Braves. I think he's like one of the top vote getters in the National League. We know Aaron Judge, even though he hasn't played in the last couple of weeks, he is actually the main leader there as well. Do you like Jake? Well, actually, it's Ohtani too. That's a top vote getter, of course, with Acuna Jr. Probably because, like I said, Judge hasn't played. But do you like any White Sox chance? I know Luis Robert. I know that's a junior. That's another name that some people say the White Sox could get in. Maybe even Jake Berger, what he's done to actually keep the White Sox afloat. So, what do you think of chance of getting the White Sox getting a few All Stars?
Boy, if anything, I would pick Liam Hendricks to get in. After all that he's been through, the name that should be thrown around is Liam Hendricks. Is he back to his full strength? Not necessarily, but I mean, just seeing him on the mound the last couple of games and just seeing how much effort he's putting in just to get back into the game after going through everything that he's been going through, it's incredible. So if anything, I think Liam Hendricks should be considered in some way, shape, or form.
Well, we know he'll be honored at the All-Star game. That's for sure. We'll be on the roster. Yeah. I don't know. But like Lakina said, I think Jake Berger, I know his average has gone down these last couple of weeks. But Luis Robert Jr., he's starting to catch up again. So I think those two will have a considerable chance to represent the White Sox at next month's All-Star game in Seattle. Christine, the Queen Manika, is hanging out with us right here on Second City Sports for her bi-weekly spot of her commentary of sports, entertainment, and more. Christine, the NBA draft took place last night in New York City. Of course, Victor Wembanyama went number one as expected to the San Antonio Spurs. While the Bulls didn't have a first-round draft pick. They traded with Boston to get into the second round. But listening to the press conference from both Arturas Karnisovas and GM Mark Eversley last night, they said that they have some plans in free agency in July 1st. And they did announce that Lonzo Ball will not be available for next season due to another knee surgery that he had a few months ago. What is your outlook future for your outlook picture for the Chicago Bulls? Do you think they'll trade DeRozan? Do you think they'll trade Zach LaVine? That's what I'll ask you.
That would be the smart move to do. I mean, I know Bulls fans were just waiting patiently. Seriously, just waiting patiently for something to happen. And it's, they have a couple of good years. We set our expectations, and then they just knock them back down to the bottom all over again. So I think that would be the right move to do. And there must be something going on in Reinsdorf's head. They just got to restart. Just restart. Yeah, has their own opinions about that.
Well, no. When I hear people say, let's restart, let's tear it down, I think I get a little bit antsy because I don't think Bulls fans are going to be patient with another rebuild. That's just my opinion. So but yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. I'm sure, like you guys said, I think AK and Eversley do need to do something. So we'll see what they do. All right. Same with the NBA. Going to the sports media. Well, you know what? How do you like your guy Victor Wembanyama's chances perhaps making it in the league? He's going to San Antonio. Pop's going to be there. I'm sure Pop's probably going to be there until he's about 100 now. I'm sure he was thinking about retiring after next season, but he's not going to do it anymore now that he got this guy. So, what do you think? Can Victor Wembanyama succeed in the league?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He won the draft, in my opinion, and so did the Spurs. If you want to be coached by anybody, especially as a rookie, got to go with Popovich. There's no other better coach to shape you, to form you into the player that you're going to be. So I think that's going to be exciting for the Spurs. And they got a good history with French players too.
Yeah. With Tony Parker, going in the Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, and also big guys too. Remember, of course, Aaron Robinson, Tim Duncan. So I like his chances too.
Yeah, especially with Greg Popovich, you mentioned coaching all those great players throughout his coaching career. I think the ceiling is up is way up for Victor Wembanyama. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. It was just announced earlier today that he's going to be playing in the summer league that's going to take place in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how he starts to get an early adjustment to the NBA game. But as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a very good career. Now, will the Spurs make the playoffs next year? I don't know. I don't think they will because they're still a young team. They still have to have the right pieces to fit around him. But as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a very good NBA career. Will it be one of the greats? That's far away to judge, but I think he's going to have a good rookie year.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else.
All right, Christine, we want to get your opinion staying with the NBA. Of course, Chris Paul was traded this week he was traded to the Golden State Warriors with Seth Curry. Of course, Draymond Green last week opted for free agency. Of course, Jordan Poole, who he punched out before the start of the last season, he was traded to the Washington Wizards. Do you think the Golden State Warriors, at least, do you think they have a chance to win the title over the next couple of years? At least get 1 or 2 more NBA titles out of that core with Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson, assuming that Draymond Green resigns?
Gee, my mom and I were talking about this the other day, and she's like, Chris Paul is so old. Like, not old, what I mean? Like, old for being an NBA player. And I just said, well, Mom, a lot of NBA stars are getting up there. And I was trying to, besides Jokic, obviously, but I was trying to think of other players besides Jokic who get the younger people excited about the future of the game, about the future of basketball. Because LeBron, Chris Paul, Draymond, Steph, they're all getting older. They are. And eventually they're not going to be as, how do I put this? They're not going to be at the top of their game like how we were all used to seeing them, right? So it's going to be interesting. I think injuries are going to be the main factor when it comes to Golden State next year because of that age and the abilities, especially with Chris Paul. So I think they'll have a chance. Do I think they'll win it? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting dynamic, I think.
Should be interesting to see what he does now. Let's talk about the trade that kind of facilitated that trade. Bill going to the Suns. Do you like the Suns' chances, perhaps maybe making things interesting in the West?
I think that it shows that they're serious enough about wanting to start over and kind of wanting to shape a new team that can get them to the postseason. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about those Boston Celtics making moves now? Kristaps Porzingis was traded from Washington to Boston. And, of course, Marcus Smart, their defensive stopper from Boston, he was traded in a 3-way deal to Memphis. And, of course, he's going to start in place of John Moran, who's going to be suspended for the first 25 games of the next season. What do you think about the Boston Celtics' chances of going forward now after losing in 7 games to the Miami Heat in last year's Eastern Conference Finals?
Boy, it's like what I said. The NBA just said the Lakers aren't in it. Just lose. Just lose. Turn the team over. Do whatever you got to do. The boss, that's going to be interesting next year. Obviously, we like to think that the same team after almost winning the championship is going to be there next year, right? That's never the case. We know this by now. That's never the case. Every team changes, whether it's mentally, physically, or whatever the case is. So would it be great to see them back in that situation for Celtic fans? Absolutely.
Right.
Is that possible? I don't know. It's tough.
It is. It's very tough. Now, staying in the NBA, but mixing up with a little bit of sports media news, Utah Jazz actually have opted to put their games, all their games. Right. Yeah, and exactly. Going with the games, getting their games on the cable service, and also with their local cable affiliates, and also to perhaps doing it on a streaming service, so that way that everyone can have access to it. People will have a chance to watch the Jazz for free. And I see other teams are doing it. The Bulls could very well follow suit, because remember, their contracts are up with the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the White Sox. After next season. So what do you guys think? Christine, I'll start with you. Do you guys think that maybe the Chicago, this could perhaps happen in Chicago, and other cities will follow suit?
I think it's going to provide a good opportunity for people to have better access to those games and whatnot. And I think it's a good investment, thinking ahead for the future. We saw what the NFL is doing with YouTube. Now, granted, you gotta pay a little bit of money for it, but
a lot.
A lot. But at least it's providing that easier access for people to just, open a computer or open up, if you have a smart TV, open up the app rather than just subscribe to another TV service, So I think there's definitely opportunity there. It's just kind of figuring out how to go about it without totally, straining our wallets.
Yeah, I was telling somebody this via a group chat that I'm part of the other day when that news went down, that I think this is where the future of television is going anyway. Like we talked about before, the old model of these RSNs, regional sports networks, for those of you scoring at home, these the old models of regional sports networks are dying out, because remember, people have been cutting the cord for years. And so, as me and Lakina say all the time, people want and need options. And you don't have traditional cable. The only other avenues that people are watching anything right now is the streaming services with Hulu, Netflix, YouTube. In my personal opinion, is becoming a new network television, but online. And so people are finding ways to watch their sports. But the problem comes in is that we have, let's just say, the channels that you want, you have it on this streaming service, but you don't have it on. You had to pay for another one to get another channel that, like you said, that runs up people's wallets. But as far as sports is concerned, you put it on the over-the-air channel. That makes it easier access for everyone to get access to your game. So of course, you got to have the streaming services a streaming service to go along with it as well. Because let's be honest here, not everybody's going to be sitting in front of a TV or watching and listening to your games. People are going to watch it on their phones, on their computers, on their laptops. And let's be honest here, Christine, I want to get your thoughts on this, that when you're watching sporting events, let's be honest, you watch it 2, sometimes 3 at a time, which could be very challenging within itself. But the way we consume our sports is not just a traditional way of watching one game, paying attention to it anymore.
Yeah, no, usually when I watch a game, I focus on one. And then if there's a commercial, then I kind of go just back and forth.
Yeah, now that's the old way of doing it. And most people, like yours truly, I have the main TV right in front of me. I have my laptop, but like you say, whatever is interesting, I focus it on that, and whatever action is happening at the time, I just focus in on that. But like you said, we used to do the old way of just watching just one, because we didn't have all this back then. So times are changing, and hopefully these teams are up from all your professional sports that they're getting with, especially with the situation with Valley Sports is going with right now. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, the Friday edition. Last few minutes here, sit with you along with our girl Christine, the Queen Manika from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Hopefully Lakina can join us before we close up shop for the week. And Lakina brought this up before the break, and I'll bring it up with you right now, Christine. I don't know if you saw this, but we know that layoffs are apparent, unfortunately, in this business, and ESPN is going through it right now, especially now with not just television, but now with ESPN Radio again. Their morning show is about to get cut with Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams, and Max Kellerman. Of course, Max Kellerman is going to take the brunt of it because his show, his TV show, afternoon show, This Just In, will be bumped off in the fall because they're going to make room for the Pat McAfee show. I want to, and their radio show is about to get cut loose too. But I want to get your thoughts first, Lakina, since she's now rejoining us. What do you think about this move that ESPN Radio announced earlier this week?
This isn't really a big surprise. I mean, they've kind of relegated that show to it was on ESPN, then they moved it to ESPN ESPN News, and they got it on ESPNU now. So they basically just shows you how they feel about that show. And I figured it's not gonna last very long. Of course, obviously, ESPN. It's been it came out that they're gonna get rid of the show as of I don't know, they don't have an official date. I'm sure perhaps maybe before the summer is over with. But it seems like ever since Mike Greenberg told the brass that, hey, I want off the Mike and Mike show, of course, with him and Golick. Michael Lick Sr. That was basically it for that show. That was a flagship show. They tried with Golick Wingo, but of course, Trey Wingo didn't want to get up that early, allegedly. So, he got pushed, guys. Then he got brought in, of course, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin, of course, Zubin Mahiney. Unfortunately, got into some various health problems. And then, of course, he's doing great. He's doing Sports Center now. He's been doing Sports Center. I've been doing it ever since. But then they brought in Kellerman, and then now, of course, I guess this could be a lot that's going to be happening. Of course, you got J. Will might be the on man now. That's like you said, like Max Kellerman too. I mean, his show just going to get pushed aside for a Pat McAfee show. So you got to think that, especially with the layoffs coming up, there could be some more coming up next week. So there might be a lot of changes and there might be some familiar faces that might be gone over at ESPN, and J. Will and Max might be a couple of those names.
Christine?
Yeah, I've been around this business long enough to know that it happens, and it's unfortunate that it has to happen. But this is it's the unfortunate part of the business. That's pretty much all I can say about that. I knew someone that had to get let go, and it's tough, but knowing those guys, I'm sure they're going to bounce back. Not right away, but they'll bounce back pretty easily. It's always a tough decision, no matter how long you've been in the business. It's always tough to make those type of calls.
I thought, and just one last comment on this subject before we close up shop. I want to get your opinion on this, Lakina. I saw a tweet from Jeff Egress. He's the deputy sports editor over there at the Chicago Sun-Times. He said, what could this do for the local ESPN radio affiliates across the country, including here in Chicago? Of course, you have Jonathan Hood and David Kaplan with their morning show weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. Could they expand that show to at least 6 to 10 or 5 to 10? I don't know who wants to get up there early, but do you think they'll get an expansion of that show?
Nor Cappy for that matter. Yeah, nor Cappy for that matter. I don't know. Well, look, I mean, they're getting pounded by Mullion Hall in the ratings. So, I'm sure if you're ESPN Chicago, you got to try to do something, perhaps compete in the mornings, especially. And also, too, of course, you got the Greenie, on during the 10 to noon spot. I know that lately it's been, our guys, Black and Abdallah. They've been doing it whenever there's a White Sox game on at night. They've been doing that lately. So that could help their cause a little bit, too. Of course, Waddle and Sylvia, I think, is definitely the most popular show on that station.
Yes.
But I mean, could Danny Zimmerman, who's a program director there, with the content guy, could he perhaps maybe, could they do that? I mean, I don't know. But yeah, that's something they're going to have to figure out. I'm sure probably before football season.
Yes, they have the Bears games now for the next few years. Christine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I love Waddle and Sylvie. I love listening to them, and I go back and forth between the sports stations in Chicago. So
same.
Yeah, we'll just see. I mean, I wake up at 4:00 in the morning, so I feel anybody who wakes up that early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to do overnights when I started this business a long time ago, midnight to 6, the graveyard shift, and I heard someone say this a long time ago. If you're doing overnight work or morning work in radio, it's going to take some years off your life. I had to adjust to it right away. It took me some time, but I had to adjust to it, and I was okay. But it is really a tough adjustment period, because we're trained to sleep during those hours of the night. But you work them. It could be tough until you get used to it. But for the first few months, it was tough.
Yeah, definitely. So, like we've been saying, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what ESPN does, and it looks how this is going to affect the ESPN Chicago, because, like you said, I mean, that's going to open it up. So, are they going to keep it status quo to whatever show takes over that slot, or will they, like you said, try to maybe expand Cap and Hood? I don't know if either one of them want to get up that early to like 5 or 6, but I don't know about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting though. Like I said, the Good Karma bands. I mean, we'll see what they do. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting, for all fronts, because ESPN Radio has kind of been in an after. I don't want to say it's been treated as an afterthought since Golick and Greeny broke up, but it's kind of been sort of like a kind of a footnote. I mean, they've had Freddie Coleman's been there for many years. Fitz has been there for a minute too. Of course, he co-hosted with our with Sarah Spain for many years as well. Jason Fitz. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, it'll be interesting how the landscape of this is, and how, especially with the layoffs. There could be some more layoffs coming up as early as Monday. So we'll see.
Yeah, times to change within our industry. Of course, podcasts, and of course, we're a part of it here. They're on the rise. So, as we said before, and we'll say it again, people want to need options. I know radio is always going to be an option, but the old way of doing things is no longer in existence. So you have to adjust to what's happening now.
Absolutely. So, anything else before we disperse?
Christine, anything coming up for you?
I got soccer tonight for our women's team, and then I'm on the road for golfing weekend. So yeah, not much going on here.
And with
of course, yours truly would be at the Sox game tomorrow. Yours truly also is going to be at a tailgate presented by the Chicago Sports Bums, and of course, yours truly is going to have some stories, I'm sure, for next week's show. And let's see if the White Sox can turn this thing around, as I have my fingers crossed, but we'll see what happens. I'll probably have more fun off the field than actually watching the damn game inside.
Probably, and I'm looking forward to seeing that Cubs, how the British crowd responds to the Cubs and the Cardinals, those two games, tomorrow and Sunday. That's going to be very interesting, and to see. I mean, like I said, we've been seeing it more and more. But I mean, there's going to be a game in Paris in a couple of years. I've heard some, rumors that they may have one in Germany coming up, in a little bit after that. So, we'll see. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the Cardinals and the Cubs, get responded over there. I know. Oh, I'm sure their fans are gonna be there too. So, should be fun.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. With that said, you follow me at Kingdom McGee on the Twitter and at Kiosk McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me at Twitter at @CManika_KXRB.
All right. You can catch our show every Monday and Friday. Right here on Sports Zone Chicago, either on the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's all right there for you. And of course on WARR Media, anytime, wherever you get your podcast, you can catch our show, anytime you want, right there on WARR Media. And also to catch up with our guys. It's cool, our guys. Saul, we want to thank you for joining us to check out his podcast as well, right there on WARR Media Podcast.
Yes, and it's called At Bat. Him and Miles, they do a great job. You mentioned Gabriel Wilkins as well. He comes on there sometimes. So you can check out our podcast, Second City Sports, and At Bat Podcast and WARR Media Podcast. And it's some great content. Please support, and we love bringing it to you every single time out. So for Lakina, for Christine, I'm Sid. It's been Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Have a great weekend, everybody. It's going to be a hot one in the city, especially tomorrow with 90 degrees. I know it's supposed to be thunderstorming on Sunday, so be careful out there. Be safe. And I want to say this real quick. I know there was an unfortunate accident at the White Sox game this past Tuesday where those 4 people were unfortunately injured. It looks like they're going to be okay. That stupid driver was arrested, thank goodness. But so that was unfortunate, but great job of the White Sox for putting out a statement out there, recognizing which could have been much worse, but unfortunately, things didn't get much worse. But peace and love to those 4 people that were injured. It looks like they're going to be okay.
And they got the guy too, so hopefully
they'll
throw the book at him. So so enjoy all the sports. Enjoy the golf, the baseball, if you're into the WNBA or NWSL and MLS, it's all right there. So if you're gonna don't act stupid when you get out there, okay, folks. I mean, I'm just saying, in that hot weather, first Sid, right? I mean, first Sid and Christine, I'm Lakia. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Go Sox, holla!